Welcome. In this tutorial, we're going to rig up a basic character for doing some more lip syncing because we're going to create a multi-character scene. So we're going to save out our characters as templates and we're going to bring them in. We're going to separate the audio so we can have two characters speaking in the same scene. So we're going to figure out how to do a bunch of things and combine in some camera moves so we can create close-ups, two shots, etc. So we're going to have some fun with this. So in this first part, we're just going to go through some of the basic rigging. Now this character is not going to be completely rigged. It's separated out a little bit, so we have some options while we're animating, but for the most part, it's going to be a pretty simplistic rig. We'll be able to kind of move the wings or the hand or the arms a little bit. The head is separate from the body. So we can do some simple posing. We'll do a little bit of setup using auto patches to hide a few joints, but for the most part this character is not going to be a fully rigged character because the focus is going to be on creating templates and combining them together into a single scene. But it's nice to repeat a little bit of our lip syncing stuff just as a rehash here. So I've brought in a mouth chart again for reference. I have the mouth that I'm going to be working with, and right now this will be my neutral mouth. So first step is going to be to create a new drawing. Now, with that, I will turn on onion skinning for that layer so that I can see what I am doing here. I do need to move on to the line art. Whoop, that's the nose. Move on to the line art here for the character. But as you can see, it doesn't show because there is no previous frame to show. So with this, we'll just take and extend out the exposure. All we really need is kind of the head layers so we can see what's going on, and we'll delete these frames later. And with that, we'll just extend them out with F5 so I can see what is happening there. And now this frame, we'll go to frame 1 and set it to the first mouth. Frame 2 we'll set to the empty mouth. So now we have our onion skinning working. I have light table on. You will notice that when we do turn on the onion skinning, I have changed my onion skinning preferences. So if we go into our preferences and go into drawing, we have onion skin render style, and I've changed mine to outline instead of colors or colored, because then that way I just see lines, so then I don't have solid fills when I'm onion skinning. I find that can be a little bit easier when we're working on this. So with my line color selected now, I'm going to just zoom in a little bit more so I can see, and I'm going to work on pulling out. So our character is kind of in a 3/4-ish view here, which will work well when you have two characters having a conversation with each other. And I'm looking at this, it doesn't quite fit with the 3/4 view, looking for that center line on the face. Okay, so now that I have that view done, what I want to think about here is working on my open consonants. So now we're going to open the mouth here and we'll show some teeth. So again, we can just create a new empty drawing. Now with that, I do want to change it to the previous one so I can now see those lines. So now my character is going to open for the open consonants. And then that will now create that next mouth for the open consonants. Now if we look at what we're doing next, because now we have our A and our B mouth. Now we're working on our C mouth for the S sound. Then we'll have A, O, and then the U followed by the F and V sound. And we can make an L mouth if we so desire. So with this, we're going to be opening the mouth a little bit. so that we can see a little bit more of what is there. So I'll go and set the mouth, add in now an empty drawing. And with that, we'll just kind of extend it down. With this character, we may, it might be nice if I did have a deformer on the chin, so I could adjust the chin through it. Or the other option that we can look at when we're extending this out is we can add to the chin. And the trick there is getting the line just right. I think that's too big. And then when we add in our color, we'll have to add in enough color to continue out that chin. So that now gives me my S sound here. And now if we, so now we're going for A, so we're going to really start to open up that mouth. So once again, set the mouth there, move to this next frame, empty drawing. We can see what is there. So I want to open this one up. So we're getting now that, again, this is, and I'm using Control-Alt on Windows, Command-Option on Mac to rotate my animation wheel. So now that gives me my A sound, and now we need our open vowel, so it's going to be a much more rounded mouth here. We're going to do a more rounded mouth, so again, swap. And just look at the head here. I'm going to have to work that chin a little bit more now as I see it on the with the whole head in. I'm not really a fan of how that's progressing. So before we continue more of that, let's just grab that chin, delete, back to my pen tool here. And we'll just, yeah, that's better. Now let's just cycle through, square bracket key cycles through. All right, so even on this one, when we're opening, we're going to want, oh no, that's super ugly. I don't like that at all. So, kind of grumpy, non-talking, closed consonant, open consonant, the E sound, and now we have the A sound, and now we're going to work on the, here we'll move to our next empty drawing. This will be for the O sound with this. And the O sound often does lend itself to a round shape. Now we'll swap that back to the O, go here, new mouth, and now this one. Let's see, we get the teeth, tongue, more teeth. And then so that gives the ooh sound. And now we need our F and V sound, which is going to be closer to working with, I think I'm going to do a variant of this one here. So we'll set that there, go to this frame, insert a new drawing, so now I can see what's there. And once again, continuing down on the chin, F and V, and then we have the L sound here, which I'm going to start with that more as my reference. Insert a new drawing, and trying to keep those top teeth lined up. And just continuing out the chin. All right, so that gives all of the different mouth shapes that we're working with, and that creates the line art for it. Now, the easy way to create the color art, what I'm going to do is now I have 9 different mouths that I'm working with, and I want to rename those so that they're named appropriately for what I need. The easiest way is go into edit mode, and now I can click on this and Control D Windows, Command D Mac, that pulls up rename, capital letters. This is going to be X or my non-speaking drawing. Now again, if I click on this, right click, rename drawing, this one is going to be A. Right click, rename drawing, B. Right click, rename drawing, C. Right click, rename drawing, D. Right click, rename drawing, E. Right click, rename drawing, F. Right click, rename drawing, G. Rename drawing this one. This will be L extra, because it doesn't, oh, that's right, we can't use hyphens in it. Rename my drawing. This will be L underscore extra. And capitalize that, L underscore. And there it is at the end. Okay, so now we have our drawings renamed. Turn off edit mode. Now it goes back to that blue view. Gonna go here and insert, there's my X drawing. Just gonna delete that. Now let's just take this. I'm going to extend out its exposure so we have enough frames for it. So this is my X drawing. Now this I'm going to toggle through until I get A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, X, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or F. Where did my G go? There's G, and then the final one will be my L. This we can delete. All right, so the reason I want all of these out here, I can select that. I'm going to switch to my select tool here. And what's really nice, under tool properties, we can select color and line art layer. I had that selected from something previously, but I can now select down layers, but I can also apply to all frames. So if I click that button and apply to all frames, notice it turns red here. This is kind of really important. But if I click and say, okay, now I want to create color art from my line art, I can click on that. And now if I go into my color art, we'll see that it is there for the mouth. We'll zoom in. So there is color art for everything. Turn that off. Turn off onion skinning so we can see each drawing. My color art is there, so it's ready for me to work on it. So that's the quick way of doing it, but no, it's really important is turn that back off as soon as you're done using it, because otherwise you get some really weird, things will happen that you're not predicting, because it will start painting on multiple frames, selecting multiple, it gets ugly fast. So here, this mouth, I don't really need to paint anything. This mouth, I'm probably okay for the color. This one, and I'm going to need to extend out my head here just so I can see the head shape to get a better idea of what's going on. So if we go here, this one, we do need to now color in some teeth. So I can grab the paint bucket and we'll grab the teeth and we'll color that in. Now let's move to the next frame, color the teeth, next frame, teeth and teeth, next frame, teeth. And it's not, see, it's not closing that, but if I zoom way, okay, I'm going to have to create either add a stroke or create another stroke on it. I can grab that endpoint. I'll just pull that over just a hair with it so that now that's pulled over and we should be able to fill that little spot in there. Go here. Oh. Teeth, 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 and teeth. Oh, I was using the wrong keys here. I was just cycling through my drawing subs instead of forwarding back through the timeline, but that's okay. All right, so now what we need to do, if we go here, this one, we need to add some for the chin. Well, what I can do is go to my stroke tool, and with the stroke tool, I can just simply add a stroke across here. That will allow me to fill up. Notice I am on the color art layer, not on the line art layer. And we will be filling with skin. I'm going to stroke through all of these so I don't have to repeat it. Keep switching colors. Okay, that one is not going to line up, so we are going to have to adjust that line here. So with this line, let's pull that down a little bit. Then I'll pull this over. All right, so now I have lined those up. Grab the stroke tool. Don't want to grab the stroke tool on the line art. I want to do the stroke tool on there. Well, I guess first thing, we need to adjust that fill over here as well, so I can pull that down, click and pull that point, move that over. So that's going to work now. Grab that stroke tool, run across over to here, run over here. So we'll be able to fill Move into the next one. Those line up, so we can just go across. Probably need to pull that one up a little higher. Across. 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 Okay. So now we can go back to our paint bucket tool with the scan. Choose fill, scan, fill, scan, fill, scan, fill. So if you're smart about it, it really just becomes rinse and repeat. So now I need the mouth back color. Put that in. And remember, if you are zoomed in, then the gaps become problematic. So it does that. But if I zoom out to the point that then those points are effectively touching, I can now just fill that little gap. So that's the hot tip, is adjust your zoom while you're working, and then that will help you out immensely. And we'll just bring our character back to our, bring this one back to the X mouth, so it's there, perfect. And we can just delete all these extra frames, go back to frame 1. There is the character. All right, so now that the character has been colored and I have the mouths, so they will be ready for lip syncing. The mouths have been named. We can switch over to the node view. So with our mouths drawn, we're going to work on arranging the nodes. For that, I'm going to just adjust my view so I have more room to work, and I'll switch over into this view. So we don't need the mouth chart anymore, so I can just select that and hit D on the keyboard to disable it. Now here is my composite, and then this is all of my drawing layers that currently are a bit of a mess. So the first step will be to, with those selected, I will just move them out. And we can see we have quite a few, so it is going to take a little bit of work to get everything arranged so that we can start animating it and rigging it together. So the first thing I want to do is add a peg to each of these layers. So that's Command or Control, Shift, and the letter P. That adds pegs to each of the layers. So now that we've done that, we can start figuring out how we want to group these together. So I have 2 legs and hips on the side here, so that is going to be a lower body. So I'm going to have a lower body peg as well. So then I will just, with that selected, I'll hit Command P or Control P on Windows and call this lower body. Now to the torso, I'm going to attach an upper body peg, and because it's going to share the same pivot point, that's why I put those above it. So again, notice, this is single part legs, so I can move each leg independently just for a little bit of animation, but it's real simple. The arms really can't do much with those. So, and with that, the arms are connected to the upper body, as are going to be the wings. So we're going to have to rearrange some of the layers here as well. Then the upper body and lower body are going to be connected to a single peg. That will be our master peg. So with those 2 selected, Command or Control P, let's call this master peg. So that is set there. Now the upper body, we do have to start grouping some other things in. So we do have the head. And then we have the ear, we have the mouth, we have the nose, eye, pupils, both eyes, and the hair. So we have some grouping that we need to do. So I want to be able to move the pupil or the eye, but I want to be able to just also select one. So with that, we'll group those. Well, we'll have, this is our eye front master. This is going to be our eye back master here. And now we're going to group the different face elements together. And we're going to use some cutters so that we can move the pupils around in the eyes so we can get a little bit of character expression happening. So with that, we do want a face peg, and I'm going to kind of set that at the bottom of the nose, so I'll just attach it here, and we'll just call this face. So again, this is a super simple character, but you'll find that even by doing this little bit of effort and rigging it together, we can actually do some pretty advanced things. Now this is going to be the headmaster. And then the headmaster, when we move that, is going to move the face. It's going to move hair, and hair, and hair. So with that, to simplify things so it's not going into such a crazy complex composite where we have so many different pieces together here, what's nice is to then use some grouping composites to hold things together so that it organizes what is happening here a little bit better. So we know that we're going to need to combine together and use an auto patch with the hips and the torso so it blends their elements together. So with that, we may want to have a lower body composite going into that just to clean that up, because then we will create our little node sandwich. And we're going to just use the simple version of the auto patch versus doing full line cross patching, knowing that it's not perfect, but our lines are skinny enough, being set at a 2.5, that it works okay. So the first thing though we'll want to do is go and get, we'll set some pivot points so we can see how things are moving. We also do need to adjust some layering, like the wings here. So if I click on the wings are really behind everything. So we can pull those all the way back. When we look at how that is moving, the back arm should be behind the torso. So we go back one. So now the torso is on top of the back arm. And we can start to see, if we go back into the view here, we can see that the character is now looking a little bit better. If I turn off the light table, go to line art so it doesn't show the strokes, turn off the center part so we can see there the character is sitting. And what we want to do is we want to create an auto patch so that these two, it hides that seam and it just creates a seamless waist. Though it's actually maybe not. I mean, maybe we can leave it, but the eyes certainly need cutters, so we do need that to happen as we work with it. So with that, let's go figure out how we do that. So I'll grab a cutter. We're going to need a cutter for it. I'm going to need my line art, so I can put the line art of the eye on top, and then I'll we need the color art, which is going to cut. So the color art, the white of the eye is going to be forming a cutting action so that when we move the pupil, that it doesn't get in the way. So with that, we'll just get a composite for this just to clean it up. And this will be our eye front comp. And once we make one, we'll be able to see how it works and then set it up for the next one. So let's see, let's go find, whoop, didn't mean to hit play. Let's go and find. So here's the front pupil. So the front pupil, it is going to be cut. So we put that in the cutter. So it is being cut by the color art of the front eye. And then the line art of the front eye needs to sit on top. So which we can even have, and then we join that there. And you may be looking and going, well, it just disappeared. Well, that's because it's no longer connected. Let's just grab the correct pipe here. We'll pull that out. Whole eye goes away. We put this back. Now the eye comes back. But you notice the eye is out here, but it's not over there with the pupil. And that's because we need to invert our cutter. So if I double click on the little mask icon here, that inverts it. If I click here, we can see it's now inverted. If I want it to be this way, so now it's been inverted. So that now sets up for the eyes. So I'm going to, because these do not contain any artwork or positioning information, they're not pegs or drawing layers, we can select these, copy and paste it. So I can now create a second group here, and I can do that with the back eye. So let's repeat that same process. Let's just pull this down so it's a little more room. So now the back pupil, we just stick that into the cutter, and the front eye goes into the color art, and it's also, we need to set the front eye into the line art, so we have to connect it there, and now we can set that eye right here, and now that eye comes back, and I want the eyes to be in between the nose so that the nose trims off the corner of that eye. So we don't have any pegs set yet, so if I go on to this pupil here, grab my transform tool, just to move that eye, you'll see how we can now, our character can change where they are looking. So we'll set our pivot points here in a little bit now that we're getting some of our rigging configured. But I was planning to set it up with the torso so that, yeah, but I kind of, you know, I kind of like having a waist since I didn't draw a belt or anything with it. So that's just want to get rid of that keyframe information that I put in. It's not a bad idea when you are rigging is you turn off animate so it doesn't generate any keyframes. That can be a safe way that you know your character is configured cleanly while you're working. Well, so what I want to do, so there is now the head layers. So we have hair. If I want to just pull these over a little bit, pull these eye layers over so they're now kind of all grouped together. These eye layers are grouped together, so we're kind of moving things around a little bit, so it's a little more organized. So now that we have things mostly organized, except that we do need to, on the upper body should also include the head. So I can move that as a whole group, and I can move the lower body as a group. So again, we're going for super limited animation, but because of how things have been drawn and colored, it allows us to do that pretty readily. So what I want to do now is I can just shrink that part down, pull this up. Now, one thing that I did when I drew is I drew my character at center so that when I start setting my pivot points using the rotate tool, it's going to be really easy to do that. So if I go onto, I'm just going to work my way across this node tree here. So this is going to be for this leg. So then that leg can move. Now if I move into this leg will move from kind of its hip socket. Now if I choose the lower body and the hips, I like where that is, so I will just leave that. If I grab the torso and upper body, I'm going to just move that over a little bit. As long as I have the master peg here, typically we set the master peg somewhere between the feet. That's a common place to put it. So now if I go into my back arm here, this allows me, because I only have an arm from the elbow down, I'm going to set my pivot point about where my elbow is. Now here I will set it at the shoulder because I do have a full arm there. The wings I'm going to set where I imagine kind of the center part would be on the wings. Now the wings, I might want to do some drawing substitution so I can actually kind of animate a little flap if I was so motivated. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. Now the head, let's set our pivot point kind of at the base of the head where it joins the neck. So if I animate the whole head, it does that. Now the ear, which is mostly covered up by hair, but there is an ear there, so I will go and put it there. We can see there is the mouth. We'll drag that up to the mouth. The nose and face again. You know, I aligned the pivot points because I'm planning to put them into a similar location. Wrong. If I just tap space, it starts playing, but if I click and hold space, it gives me the space bar. So now the eye pivot point, what we commonly will do is we'll put it at the kind of the tear duct, because then that way, if we're scaling it, that way we can, you know, kind of scale out from that point or rotate the eye from that point. So that's a common place to put that pivot point. Let's go here. I just want to make sure that I didn't put any keyframes in. Okay. Now the pupil, as we work with the pupil, I may want to, let's go back to a rotate tool, put the pupil so it is more centered in the eye. Now I'll do this pupil as long as we're thinking of it. Centered in the eye. Again, set the eye at the tear duct. That allows for super easy animation. And now we have some hair pieces here. This is now going to be the back hair on the head. I'll just put it there. Here on the side. And put here. Not planning to do much with these, but you know, it's nice to have those pivot points. So now my pivot points have been set. My artwork is set. If I go up to the top, we can just close this down. And now here is my character ready to animate. So if I grab my animation tool, one thing I want to do here is save. Make sure I've saved this out. So with everything saved out, I can now start animating. So if I click on the hips, hit B, yeah, we could rotate the character's leg over here. I could rotate that leg a little bit more, a little bit less. Again, this arm, we can see how the animation is working. Again, it's real limited artwork, but very flexible, because you can see how I'm able to very quickly, I can change this pose. I mean, it would be nice if I'd put in knees and auto patch that and stuff, but now on this frame I'll just say I want to start right here, and let's go over a few frames. At this point I'll hit F5. Oh, it's not showing up because I hit F6, not F5. Okay, well, I hit F6. Now I have my next drawing that I'm working with, and I'm going to just kind of rotate the whole character. One more bend at the waist, and just using B and Shift B to adjust my positions, so you can see how quickly we're able to figure out that pose. Now I'm going to just go here. So I've just created a little kind of overshoot with it, and then settling back into that finished pose. So simple character, really easy rigging. So if you're smart when you draw and set things up, you're going to be able to do a lot with very little. So it doesn't require super complex, intricate, tons and tons of layers to give you something that is usable for animation. So my character is primed for lip syncing. I have all the mouths drawn. I have some basic rigging going on here, so I'm able to figure out some simple movements for animation. We'll be able to animate the eyes. I can move the arms and legs a little bit, the upper body, lower body, wings. Even when you go here, I could even now take that hair and just pull that up just a little bit. So we get just little bits of movement. A little bit will go a long way. So once we've done this and know that our character is ready, I'm going to just go back, delete all of that, go back to frame 1 here. And we'll just get rid of that, so we're back to our basic keyframe. So character's been set, character's been rigged. Now what we want to do is turn this into a template so that we can use it. So if we're going to bring this into another project, we need to figure out what pieces we're trying to move over and create a template with. And this is where groups come in and are super handy. So I'm going to adjust my view here and pull up my library. The library is where we can now access things and store things. The symbols library is tied to the document that you're working on. You can't access it from outside the current document. So what we want to do is we want to be able to access a directory or folder on our computer. And the way that we can do that is we can right click and choose Open Library, which is essentially saying open a folder. And then once we have that folder open, we can add something to it. So if I choose Open Folder, I can now navigate to whatever folder I'm trying to add something to. So I'm just going to go to my rigs folder here. And we'll notice that on my rigs folder, there's a little lock icon. On this little lock icon, what I need to do is I need to right click here and choose Write to Modify. So Harmony tries to make sure that you don't accidentally put things where they shouldn't be. So now I've unlocked my rigs folder so I can put it in, and I want to add this rig to it. But we're going to have to clean things up a little bit so that it's easier when we share it with another project. So with that, I'm going to expand out my node view here so we can see what's going on. So we have a master peg here. We have a composite all the way down here. I am going to sever the reference files. I don't really need the mouth chart to go with this. I don't need the reference document that I used when I was creating the artwork. Really, what I want is I want to have a composite for my scene and then a composite for my character. So with that, we're just going to add a new composite here, and I'll just call this my scene comp. Close that. And now I'm going to connect the main one to that, disconnect these, and we will connect display and write to our scene comp. Now this comp, I'm going to rename it, and I'll call this my fairy comp, since this is my fairy character. Now if I bring it in, nodes like this, without any backdrops or further organization, put it into my project, it's going to get a little bit ugly. It is nice that things will be at kind of a flat layer of the hierarchy, but a different way of doing it is I select all of these nodes. So I zoom out and select them. So I have the comp selected, all the pegs and all the drawing artwork layers, and these cutters that we are working with. Then what we're going to do is right click and choose group. Now we don't need to add a composite because we added one manually. And I did that for a reason. I could have chose group selection with composite and just selected all the upper legs, or pegs and drawing nodes. But what I find is sometimes then the hierarchy of our different drawing layers, when I let it make a new composite for it, sometimes my layer order gets messed up, and then I have to go back and fix it. So now I can just choose group selection, and it creates a group. We can see how nice and tidy that is. And if we zoom in, it says group. And I'm going to name this group, and I'll just call this fairy-G for our group. Okay, close. If I click the little arrow, there it is. So it has a port in, has a port out, and from that goes into my scene. So now my scene is really nicely organized. So when we add this character and other character templates to our main scene where we want to tell our story and animate, all of our other layers, we're not going to end up with just a complete disaster where the node view is impossible to understand. All right, so now we can exit out of that view. And with that, so I now have that group here. So I'm going to just select that, and I can just copy, and I can go up into my node view. Now I did, under view, I said show me it with thumbnails. The default view, it shows up as a list, and it looks like that. But I said show me the thumbnails, so it gave me the thumbnails. Now what I can do is choose paste. And now it's pasting in my fairy group as a .tpl or template file. So now it's been put in, which is perfect. So what I can do next is, well, I'm just going to save this. Template demo. and wait for it to load. Okay, now I have a brand new project. If I go to my folder where I put it, hey look, there's that group. I can drag it into my node view. I do find it's easier to drag into the node view than anywhere else. If you drag it to the timeline or the camera view, it inserts the node, connects it to the comp, and it's going to often be in just some, here, we'll delete this and show you. If I drag this over here, and that's great. Okay, so this time it actually put it on screen. Sometimes it will put it so we have to like zoom all the way out in the corner to go find it. We're like, where is it? And it's really annoying. But now, if you look here, hey look, I can drag out a second copy. So now we have two of them. And now with that fairy selected, I can just grab the master peg here, B, and we can see, oh look, we have two of them. And well, hey, how about on this fairy here? Yeah, we'll flip it, so she's going to have a conversation with herself. Fantastic. But the best part is they are completely independent of each other. So much so that if we look what is going on here and go and click on my fairy. Now if I click on this fairy here and we go, let's see. So if we change the color, we'll see that because they came from the same character, they are sharing the same palette. So I really don't like that green here, so we'll turn that off. So that's a problem. But if I were to go and grab the eraser and let's go find on our second fairy, notice in our timeline we now have a little plus here. So when we're animating, we do have to expand out the group so we can see that master peg on it. So now if we go and grab that hair layer, now I don't know which hair layer that is. Let's pull this over so we can see that's hair front. Okay. So if I were to erase on the line art, erase on the color art, we can see it doesn't affect the other one. They are indeed separate entities from each other, but because they are sharing the same color palette, that is going to be a problem. All right, so we'll just delete that one there because we don't want that. So we could have our fairy have a conversation with herself. We could have fairy A versus fairy B.